Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RevOps Demos That Don't Suck, where we take product demos with some of the leading revenue technology companies out there so that you don't have to. And today I'm sitting down with Zev Lebowitz, the head of solutions and success at Attio. Attio is a new age AI native CRM, and Zev is going to tell us all about that and walk us through that now. So Zev, welcome, my friend. Thank you for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and then give us a quick little overview on Attio as well. And then I will ultimately start peppering you with questions.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me, Matt. I'm excited to be chatting with you and your audience. Attio is a CRM. We are the system of record and the system of action for managing your customer pipeline from that first engagement with a lead all the way to managing long-term relationship you have with your customers. The things that really make Attio special are really that we're designing the solution as a platform. It's an incredibly flexible data model, a set of automations and workflow tools, common sales productivity tools like sequences and call recorder, a really robust API for moving data in and out, and a flexible set of UIs so that you can mold your CRM to your use case. A platform to us means a flexible data model and a flexible set of automations so that you don't feel like you are having to change your business to meet the way your CRM works, but really that you're wrapping your CRM around your particular go-to-market motion as a business.
I love that because I think really every revenue operator is typically responsible for their CRM. Typically, folks are very familiar with tools like HubSpot, Salesforce. And I know I felt this in the past, what you just described, which is you need to fit your business requirement into the way that your CRM works instead of it working the other way around, because you have these very rigid object types and these very rigid ways that you need to. Let's actually start with the problem a little bit. So in a pre-Attio sort of world, right?
Yeah.
What are those problems that revenue operators are facing on a daily basis, a weekly basis, that you all are on a mission to solve for?
I think at a fundamental, the problem we see in the CRM market is that you are faced with choice between going with a CRM that is flexible and powerful and robust and that you can set up the way you need, or a CRM that is easy to use and that your team is going to enjoy using every day. And we genuinely believe that it's possible to build a product that can do both. And where that gets you, right, when you're starting off using Attio, is a tool that's incredibly easy to get set up, we believe, beautiful and simple for end users to interact with in a really modern and AI-first package. One that is an incredibly flexible platform so that you can set up the exact objects, the exact attributes, the exact workflows and integrations that you need to wrap your CRM around your business. We don't think that you should have to choose between flexibility, power, and ease of use for your ease of use and time to value.
That all makes complete sense. I mentioned some of the problems that I've experienced. Again, rigid object requirements, need to build workflows for a lot of things, constantly running into these problems where you're like, you really can't do that? Or is that really the way that I have to do that? And I think a lot of operators have faced that as well. One question for you though, when you think about the CRM, it's typically something that people are familiar with. A lot of other incumbents, those tools, those solutions, those models have been around for a while. So, and I know you're going to kind of walk us through the product here in a little bit, but how do you think about, you're giving people this new way of doing things with this core solution, this core platform that's very critical to the way that every business runs. What is it like for someone to actually think about these problems that maybe people like me have taken for granted as just like existing, right? You just need to work around them and operate within those constraints, to now building a product and bringing a product to market where you're like, hey, actually, you don't need to think that way or operate that way anymore. There's a better way.
Yeah. So to us, it comes down to really understanding who our users are and what the day-to-day needs of a sales team is. And then building the building blocks that they can use, right, to assemble the right solution for that particular use case. We're a startup, and we know we have a long path to build all of the things that exist in enterprise-ready CRMs out there. But the roots that we're starting with and the incremental components that we're at right over time and the path that we're on in terms of developing the tool are very much tied to supporting our core ideal user, right, as a RevOps owner, is someone we think of as a builder. And this is a term we use internally, right? Like that our ideal profile of a champion for Attio internally is someone who's a builder, right? Who wants to be able to define the set of rule objects and engagement points for if you're an AE at the end of the day, right? Or an SDR or CSM to help them get their job done every single day. Yeah.
So let's take a look. Why don't you pull up the
Yeah.
product and talk us through some of those core use cases? I'm curious to see what the new age CRM looks like and how it differs and provides value on top of the current way of building, tinkering, doing things today.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a bunch to share. It's a mix of day in the life of AE, but then really flipping it and looking at what does this look like as a RevOps owner managing and setting all this stuff up. So we'll go back and forth, and I'm excited to chat with you through it. So let me give you just a very quick tour of the UI before we jump into an example. Elements of the product I'll talk about today are the fact that we sync all of your email from mail and right into Attio to create records. I'll show you exactly what that looks like right when you start. Our native call recorder so that all of the context and information about calls like the one we're having are available right alongside your deal flow. Reporting is obviously critical for any CRM that we're going to get to. And then our automations tools for helping your sales process and your go-to-market pipelines both move as quickly, efficiently, and consistently as possible. Whether they're fully automated ones or ones where an AE is in the loop making decisions. I'll have examples of each of these things. And I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about our object model, but the fundamentals of Attio's object model are that you could create as many objects as you want with whatever set of attributes as you want in them, and as many complex relationships between those objects as you need. It is, infinitely flexible in that regard. We just have out-of-the-box standard objects for core use cases like companies, people, and deals. We'll talk more about how a SaaS company might use Attio and bring in product usage data for a PLG company to then trigger lead flows or just give teams context on how a customer is actually using the product. And then lists, which we probably won't spend a ton of time talking about today, right, are a tool within Attio to support management of specific projects around a group of records. I want to run a discount program or an outreach program for a specific group of startups. I can create my own sandbox pipeline that a handful of team members work on, manage right within my CRM that has access to all of the richness of what's in the CRM as well, but keep that an environment just for that one kind of project that you're running. The goal of the tool, right, is to be as simple as easy to use and feel like a modern SaaS web app. You'll hopefully see that as I jump in. The scenario that I'll set up for you here is I work at a B2B SaaS company called BasePoint. And right now I'm jumping in as an AE, Marissa, who's reviewing inbound leads from, in this case, a form fill. Here's my set of inbound leads that are in our lead stage that I, as an AE, have to triage and decide what to do with. And I want to walk you through what that day in the life might look like and some of the automations and processes we've set up to facilitate each of these workflows. When I look at this lead for Cosme, Attio automatically enriches data for the people and companies that you bring into your system with third-party enrichment sources that we provide and make available to all of our customers. So I have access to the amount of funding they've raised, the industries that they're in, the size of their location, the number of employees that they have. And we've used that information in a workflow when this lead is generated to assign this to a team member. So this was assigned to Marissa based off of the particular territory that she works within, and that's managed right within our workflows product within Attio. We'll talk about what that looks like in a second. And you'll see a couple of the attributes on this page here. Use AI to categorize and provide additional context to the AE decide what to do. This ICP attribute is an AI attribute we've built in Attio to take all of that form fill information and enrichment data and help me understand how that information applies to our individual business. So we're classifying when this company actually meets our ICP. So we know we've got this lead coming in. We know what industry it's in. We know that it meets our ICP. The last thing I want to understand before I decide what to actually do, right, with this lead is learn about our historical contact history with this company more broadly. I mentioned, right, the fact that object with an Attio are related to each other. You can define as many custom relationships as you want. Of course, every deal is associated with a company. And when I open up the company that this deal is associated with, you'll see that Attio natively integrates with your email inbox. When you first sign up and log into Attio, you connect your Gmail or Microsoft inbox and it will ingest your whole email history. That then creates for you as a company a database of every single company that you've ever had a meeting or email with, every single person you've ever met with, or anyone else that your company has ever met with, and provides one single place to see that full contact history. Now, of course, there are plenty of permissioning controls available to determine which of the emails in my inbox I actually want to share with the rest of my business. But this means never losing context on the actual historical relationship from a contact perspective anytime you're jumping into a new relationship with a customer. The other information we'll see about this in addition to the emails is when we've met with them. It looks like Marissa actually met with BasePoint about 5 months ago. We checked in again a handful of months ago and had a discovery call. Combining that with information about our historical deal, where I see that we actually had a closed loss deal with this account previously, I now have this full context from enrichment data, our contact history, actual conversations of meetings, the historical business context with this company to actually make a decision about what I want to do next. I'll take a pause for.
I love the UI. It's all very intuitive in terms of how you mentioned looking through having the email activity, things like that. And then also the firmographic detail and having the built-in data enrichment. I've experienced this myself and I've just operators who may have direct data enrichment contracts, typically even having more than one. And so now you've got all these different vendors that you've got to manage, all those integrations you've got to manage. And there's also, I've seen people build workflows where they're like, oh, we like this data provider for this, but this other data provider for this thing. And then they start to make their own waterfalls and it can get really messy quickly. And then we've all seen those properties in Salesforce, right? Where it's like industry underscore C, industry underscore C underscore B.
Yeah.
Industry, use this one in parens. So that stuff just gets out of hand. This makes it, you eliminate all that from the get-go with that.
Yeah, for sure. And look, to be really like, it's not an either or decision. We have lots of customers bringing their own enrichment data to supplement for the particular industry they're in. Lots of customers using Clay and Attio, right? It is a really powerful tool to do really sophisticated and bespoke enrichment. But what's important to us is, getting you up and running and not forcing everybody to buy the plain Jane enrichment, that everybody else already has. Before I go, I want to talk about, okay, how do I actually action this lead? But I'll take a quick diversion here to talk about our call recorder. As I mentioned earlier, right, I can see the meeting history, but also the calls that Attio has actually recorded for us. And I want to show you what that experience looks like on an actual live example of the recording of a meeting that we had with you prepping for this call the other day. Specifically to highlight one of the really exciting AI features we're excited about within Attio, which are custom insight templates. So while we of course give you a high level summary, you can see the transcript, you can watch the video right within our call recorder. You also have the ability to define your own custom set of what we call insight templates to summarize calls for the particular information you as a business need to collect for an individual call type. We internally have an insight template for a discovery call, which has our disco call criteria. A call template for a onboarding kickoff call, which lets us, again, summarize and get quick next steps, even does things like pre-writes the follow-up email for you in the insights template. And I wanted to show you quickly as an operator what that might look like. If I wanted to go ahead and actually manage this template, we just have key insights, decision agreements, and next steps. But if I head to our template management tool, pull up the general discussion template, I'm going to do this live, but let's add a new section to that template and see how it goes with the call we were looking at. Let's add a mood section and have it prompt us with, tell us about the general mood of each of the participants.
That's so fun.
I hope you're in a good mood on that particular on that.
I think I was, but let's see the AI.
Yeah. Let's head back and update this summary.
I can't confirm this all. The summary, the transcript, those insights that were there before is all definitely accurate, right? When I was looking at that before, it said things about how, like a next step was sharing a calendar link with Alice so she could provide it to someone on her team to book this call, which is exactly what happened. Talked a lot about how we're going to communicate and share things within the partner programs. So yeah, that was good stuff.
Positive and collaborative, and you were both excited about the partnerships activities they discussed. So glad to hear, right? I actually wasn't on the call, but to hear it was a positive one with Alex. I think our stance towards AI really is putting AI in places in the app where it will have the most impact to actual day-to-day outcomes to teams. And then we'll talk a little later, right, about using AI as a really flexible tool to let you go build the things you need. The core example of that being that ICP attribute that we mentioned earlier. Okay, so we took a detour to call recording, but I want to talk more about this journey that our rep was on to understand the whole context, right, about our relationship with this business, decide how to actually triage this lead. So here's our inbound lead again. We've identified that this is an ICP customer, that we have had a relationship with them. There are a lot of really strong intent signals, and I want to now execute my next task. And this is where we start talking about Attio's workflows. So I'm going to run a workflow on this lead to mark it as high priority. And that workflow is actually going to three things, and I'll walk you through each of them. It's going to send a templated email with Marissa's booking link to the customer to try to get them on a call. It will advance the lead to the next pipeline stage, which you just see all here on the screen. It flags it as a high priority deal for our internal priority systems. So a couple different ways you can build flows. One of the examples are manually triggered workflows for helping users take common tasks and automating them, or taking manual steps off their plate. So what I'll show you next is how that workflow was actually built. I want to show you our workflow builder, as well as what our sequencing product looks like to define those sequences right within Attio. Here is the workflow for marking a lead as high priority. It's a workflow that can be triggered just right on a deal manually. The first thing it does is enrolls the user, the main point of contact, right on that lead in an email sequence. It updates a record and the UI for editing any of the elements on a given attribute. Picks the time to set the due date for this task. And I didn't mention this earlier, but what it also does is create a task. That task is associated directly with the deal. You can see it on the deal. It's assigned to the deal owner. And those are all the steps in this particular workflow. Again, right, like the goal of this workflow builder being a really infinitely flexible set of, blocks that you can use to take actions both internally and externally as well. And I'll show you in a couple of minutes here what a more sophisticated kind of external facing might look like too. The last thing to show you from this ease perspective are the sequences that automation is now enrolled. Attio has an email sequencing product. You can define a series of emails with variables that get placed into the emails based off of the person that you're sending them to. You can define the wait steps. Because we're connected directly to your inbox, the recipient can automatically be exited out if a reply is received or a meeting is booked anywhere on your calendar. And putting all of these elements in one package facilitates sales teams getting their jobs done faster, right? At the end of the day, with less context switching, right? Less tools they have to work through, and bringing all of those signals from enrichment, from product usage, from AI on our deals and our interactions with companies into the same tool we're doing our outreach.
Yeah, I love, again, I talked about it with the built-in data enrichment, but having the built-in sequencing and workflow builder. Again, there's so many other, I'll call them ancillary products out there that operators typically need, whether it's workflow automation tools, you think about lead routing tools, you think about the separate sequencing tools, and all those other things that you kind of have to manage. Again, like we've kind of taken for granted that that's just the way that life is. And again, once you start to eliminate the complexity associated with managing those as an operator, then putting those other tools in the hands of your end users, who then got to start to navigate between, like you said, different tabs, different tools, different systems. Things just get more complex with everything we add into the mix, right? We know this when it comes to things like onboarding flows for new product. We know that every screen or every step we introduce in that process, you're going to see some conversion, some declines, right? Some fallout. Same thing with every new tool or tab or thing that we deploy to our sales teams, for example. So yeah, I love the ability to have that built in and just the simplicity that it brings.
One of the ancillary benefits of this is experimentation, right? The fact that it is easy to set these things up means it's very easy to iterate within it. And we obviously use our product internally very heavily, and our AEs build their own workflows for the particular ways they want to run each step of their individual sales processes. They're setting up their own sequences to tailor them to the way they have found to be most effective for the segment and territory they're working with. This means there's lots of opportunity for experimentation and for the things that really work for individuals to get bubbled up back to the rest of the team. This doesn't have to be locked in the of sales ops anytime you want, or RevOps anytime you want something new done.
100%.
So I want to talk a little bit about other data types, especially for software companies. One of the most common places that customers are bringing in more sophisticated data into Attio is among software companies, bringing in their actual product data into our tool. We have standard objects for workspaces and users. That's a top level account that everybody at a company would log into. You might call that an org or a domain. And then the individual users, at that business that log into that top line account. Because we have this customized object model, you can bring in whatever set of attributes you want. It's very easy to create a one-to-one map from your backend systems. This is valuable for two major reasons. One is product usage and licensing and self-service consumptions are now not locked behind something only engineering and product has access to. If I'm a CSM, I'm a AE, and I want to know who signed up for the product yesterday, right? And what exactly they're using, what are they doing? If I'm a CSM and I want to know what license tier this customer is on, the data all just lives right within my CRM, and it's related back to the company and the people, right within our system. Context about not only our email history is available in Attio on a company, but also all of the workspaces that they've set up and all of the users that they have in the system. This data could get into Attio in a number of ways. We have native integrations with the reverse ETL, like Polytomic, Census, or High Touch. We have integrations with data pipeline tools like Segment and PostHog. And then, of course, a really extensible API for bringing the data in from your core systems. This is something that any software company using Attio, it's the first thing that we recommend they do. I said there's two benefits, right? I didn't get to the second one. The second one, especially if you're a PLG business, is these are your leads. These self-service signups are your leads. Now they show up immediately when someone signs up to your product in Attio with what plan they signed up for, how many users have logged in, how much they're paying if they're an existing customer. So not just new leads, but PQLs for upsells. And our automation, the automation and workflow tools in Attio can monitor these objects. So when we're thinking about building triage pipelines, not just for form fills, but for anytime a customer new signs up for our product, I want to look at the product they signed up for alongside all of the firmographic, communication intelligence, AI information about the account. I have the full picture about how to triage this lead. There's no two world. Product data lives over here and our go-to-market data lives in a different place. It's all one. We do a huge amount of this internally at Attio. We're a self-service product. I know you're going to ask me later, how do I sign up? Free trial on our website, right? Go sign up. That will land in our Attio works for a sales rep to reach out to you.
No, that's awesome. And I have a story to share on this usage data. Back when I was the VP of BizOps at a company, since maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, we were on Salesforce as our CRM. Really, there was a project where we spent months trying to figure out how to get product usage data from our database into Salesforce for the exact reason that you just mentioned was we had some SDRs that we wanted to be evaluating the new product signups on a daily basis to see if any of them met a certain size criteria. Again, try to book meetings and potentially land larger deals. Literally months and months of trying to figure that out. Time spent with Salesforce developers, like it was a whole so hard. So knowing that something like that would be possible through APIs or native integrations that again, months of work that can be solved. Now you also start to see how all that information gets associated with all those other object types that are in here, all the built-in data enrichment that you have. You've got the built-in call recording, those sequences. So you can see how powerful it can be once you actually get all that information together. And the fact it can happen so easily is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and let me just make this like really real for you with just another example of a workflow, a little bit more complicated of one, which is triage of self-service product signups, right? So workflow that is kicked off anytime a new workspace is created, i.e. you have a new trial sign up. We're going to go use our research agent to get a overview of the company and then define whether or not they meet our ICP criteria. Right? Again, searching the internet to understand what this company does and whether they meet the criteria of the customers that we care about. Take a couple of different actions depending on how high priority we actually think this account is. So on the left, we've got our enterprise pipeline. Any company that's more than 1,000 employees, we want an AE talking to them. So that's going to send to a round robin among our AEs on our team and create a deal record for someone to go pursue. Could be an AE, could be an SDR, right? So that's kind of the one path. On the opposite extreme, right, we've got any customer who is greater than any customer who has raised more than $10 million. We're going to send them to our self-service triage route, which I'll talk about in a minute. And anybody that doesn't meet any of this criteria, just to our self-service onboarding path, which is an email drip from MailChimp. These automation tools also integrate with other tools, all sending data downstream. We have a handful of native integrations. You can also send webhooks anywhere, whether that be Zapier, Ping an API, have another tool to take that action into external systems. But let's say we fall somewhere in this middle, right? Like we raised $10 million, but we didn't hit the 1,000 employee threshold. This is where we want to layer in some decision making. We actually want to let an SDR triage this lead. So what are we going to do? We're going to take these and send them to a Slack channel. And we're going to alert the team with information about the company that signed up, the AI summary of the business, let them know that they're non-ICP, how much money they've raised, and let the team that's managing this channel actually decide what to do. This is that in-between ground. Not quite enterprise, but we might want to take a look at them. I can now choose in this Slack message what route to take. As I pick that option, right, it will back into the particular route that was chosen. If I can look at my deal flow pipeline, the workflow created an enterprise deal with this company. It routed it to a member of our team. So I really like talking about this acceptance that we live in a messy world. Like the idea of a truly automated, set it and forget it, decide exactly what to do with every single lead world it's not one I want to live in, right? And I don't think it represents reality. Taking the obvious cases, taking as many steps as we can to automate, but then leaving room for individuals to use their judgment to make calls to decide what to do with a lead. There's a reason we're still all hiring SDRs and AEs, right? And they need a tool to be able to do the job really quickly and efficiently and with context.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Makes a lot of sense. And I love how AI is kind of peppered into the product in all of these ways that, I don't know, it's very logical, makes a whole lot of sense. It's not like it's not AI everything, which I don't think anything should be. We were just talking about how you need people to do certain things and apply judgment, build workflows and use AIs instead of agents. But I love the thoughtful that goes into that. And again, I'm just thinking of all these tools that I've stitched together to do a few of these things, knowing that it's all possible within one platform, that you kind of putting the power in the hands of the user is pretty incredible.
The way we're thinking about AI, right, is it is baked into areas of the product where it'll have the most impact. Call recording is an obvious example of that, in summarization of calls and custom call templates. And it's also made available as a tool for you to take the particular actions with AI that are needed for specific research tasks, decision-making tasks, summarization tasks, classification tasks. Last thing to cover here is reporting. Obviously critical in any CRM and meaningful because there's so much information housed in one place that we can now report across the whole life cycle across, again, not just deals, but also signups and conversions of signups into deals. Our reporting is focused on giving you the ability to report on the health, again, that end-to-end pipeline, looking at, flow of inbound of MQLs, understanding how much business we've actually closed, or the growth of our revenue as a business coming not just from the deals we close, but also the actual conversions and self-service signups within the tool itself. Revenue being something that comes from our product, if we are a product-led company, or a product that is self-service, not just the sum of all of the deals that the sales team manage. Being able to report on the communication intelligence that we bring into the platform, having ingested in your inbox. So how many new companies have we met each week over the last quarter? Understanding where the team is relative to goals and timeline or end of quarter goal. How much open pipeline does each individual team member have and what stages, right? Or any sales analytics tool worth its salt to have. Tools to monitor the health of our pipeline, whether that be funnels or understanding how much time, right, are we spending in each of our deal stages last quarter versus this quarter. It looks like on average last quarter, our deals were spending about 3 weeks in qualification. We've brought that to this quarter. So we're doing something right in terms of time to close. Attio being a tool not just for the pre-sales portion of your customer lifecycle, but also post-sales and success as well. Now that we've got product data in Attio, once you have product data in Attio, the ability to set up custom data model, custom objects and lists for managing onboarding processes, for managing renewals, for managing the responses to churns. An example of what that actually might look like from a practical standpoint, if I'm looking at actual customers that decided to cancel, and I'm a member of our customer success team that wants to go do something about it, because reporting in Attio is based on the live data set from the system, I always have the ability to drill in and understand who are the customers that churned and ask additional questions. Maybe I want to know, right, what was their ARR and when did they, start becoming a customer? Now I have enough content on who these customers are to then go do something about it. I want to grab these 3 customers, send them an email from an email template, right? Send all of the users at each of these companies, write an email with an email template that we have to go investigate what may have happened, what went wrong. Not just being a system of record, but really being a system of action for actually getting your job done within the system, even if we're starting in the reporting tool and within the application. But yeah, that's everything I wanted to walk you through today. I hope it gives you a good high-level overview of Attio.
No, that's great. And I know you mentioned people are able to go out, sign up for a free trial on the website, attio.com, get started for free. They can reach out to you or anyone on the team as well. So just one more question as we wrap up, because again, I kind of talked about this or asked you about this at the beginning. A lot of, I would say probably my guess is every new free trial sign up or every new customer you get, or maybe 99% already have some sort of CRM in place. And so I know even like for us, right, if I think about my prior role where I've mentioned, we're on Salesforce, we're on HubSpot, right? I'm like, man, we have so much stuff there. The idea of even trying to unwind or migrate anything is just overwhelming. I don't know if I can do something new. What do you say to people when they bring a concern?
So first of all, we actually have a free migration tool built directly into the platform. We can bring in all of your data from any other CRM. And this is one of the nice things about having a free trial. Come try it out. Anytime you're thinking about bringing on a new software product, it's really important to understand why you're making this decision. Are we at a critical growth stage where we are outgrowing the system we're using? Do we believe we are losing deals or missing leads or missing opportunities or not operating consistently enough, again, usually as we scale, to hit the targets that we want to target, that we want to hit, and figuring out what those core goals so that you can evaluate the products that you're looking at against their incremental impact against those goals. Is this tool going to help us close deals faster, more consistently with better data? Is this tool going to be easier for our sales team to use so they make better decisions day to day working with customers? Migration is always something that takes time and effort. We have tools to make it as easy as possible. It's just another decision-making criteria that you're balancing against. It all starts with how much pain, right, and what the needs, what really the reasons that you want to think about changing are.
Yeah. But even having the ability to go in and give things a try, build some workflows, do some of those things, it gives people a lot of the proof that they need to be like, okay, yeah, investment in a migration, moving from one tool to another is worth it because of all the value that you'll get.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of customers on migrations, and often migration is a great time to shed some.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there are things that aren't working. The reason I'm switching is because there are things that aren't working that I maybe don't need, right, and don't want to continue.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, have you ever gotten a new laptop and been like, you know what? I just want to start with a clean slate. Sometimes the idea of just like, I don't need the baggage, the history, like give me the important stuff and I'm going to leave all that other stuff.
For sure.
Sometimes a great way to do it.
Especially when you're moving from a system that you felt like was rigid or didn't meet your business. The last thing you want to do is migrate that rigid and flexible system and the workarounds you put in place into a system that it is going to be more true to the way you actually run your pipeline. Great.
Well, Zev, thank you very much for walking us through everything. Platform looks incredible, and I can see why it would be incredibly helpful and valuable to every operator out there. I appreciate you giving us the rundown.
Yeah. And thanks again for having me. Take care.